Hi, welcome to a new episode of History in 7 Facts, the show that aims to explore some interesting episodes of humanity's past. Check out this playlist to watch the entire series, and don't forget to subscribe if you want to see more videos like this one. For this episode, I'd like to thank Joe Weirden for helping me with the research. Temüjin Borjigin is a name that may not be familiar to you, but he was the founder of what was to become the largest contiguous empire in history, the Mongol Empire. You know him as Genghis Khan, the first great Khan or emperor that managed to unite many of the nomadic tribes of Northeast Asia. He launched the Mongol invasions that conquered most of Eurasia. At the time of his death, his empire reached from Eastern Asia all the way to the Caspian Sea. His descendants would go on to conquer China, Persia, Eastern Europe, and a sizable chunk of Anatolia. These campaigns were often accompanied by large-scale massacres of the civilian population. So in many areas, Genghis Khan is viewed as a brutal conqueror. Though he would go on to be one of the most well-known leaders in humanity's history, his early life didn't show the signs of what was to come. Temüjin was born in 1162 in Delun Boldog. His father was Yesugei, a prominent leader among the Mongol tribes. Temüjin's noble background would later help him in consolidating his position. He had 3 brothers, 1 sister, and 2 half-brothers, Bekter and Belgutey. When he was 9, he was sent away to live with the clan of his future wife, Borte, but in the meantime, his father was poisoned by the Tatars and died. Temüjin then returned home to claim his father's position as chief, but was refused and abandoned, left without protection. For the next years, the family lived in poverty, surviving on wild fruits, carcasses, and small game. Bekter, Temüjin's older half-brother, started exercising his power and even claimed Temüjin's mother as his wife. Out of resentment, Temüjin and one of his brothers killed Bekter, but this didn't turn around their luck. In 1177, Temüjin was captured by a former ally of his father and was enslaved. He was helped to escape by a sympathetic guard. It was at this point that Temüjin's reputation started growing, and some of the friends he made during this period would go on to become his trusted generals. Temüjin did eventually marry Borte as previously arranged by his father, in order to cement alliances between the tribes. But soon after the marriage, Borte was kidnapped by a rival tribe. She was eventually rescued, but 9 months later, she gave birth to a boy, thus clouding the issue of parentage. Despite this, Borte was to remain Temüjin's only empress. He did, however, had several minor wives, although several is not an adequate term. During his lifetime, Temüjin would go on to have around 500 secondary wives and consorts. This explains why so many people alive today are descendants of Genghis Khan. According to some studies, up to 16 million men, and God knows how many women. At this time, none of the tribal confederations of Mongolia were united politically, and arranged marriages were often used to solidify temporary alliances. Temüjin grew up observing the tough political climate, which included tribal warfare, thievery, raids, corruption, and revenge between confederations, compounded by interference from abroad, such as from China to the south. Temüjin's mother, Hölün, taught him many lessons, especially the need for strong alliances to ensure stability in Mongolia. But even so, uniting so many different tribes was no easy task. His earliest attempts at power began when he offered himself as an ally to his father's Anda, or sworn brother, Togrul. This relationship came in handy when Temüjin's wife was kidnapped. It was also at this moment that Temüjin asked for help from his childhood friend, Jamuka, who did help, but from this point would become rivals. While Jamuka was supporting the traditional Mongolian aristocracy, Temüjin followed a meritocratic system and had a broader range of followers. A shaman also proclaimed that the eternal blue sky had set aside the world for him, and Temüjin was soon elected Khan. Threatened by this rise, Jamuka attacked and defeated Temüjin. But he also managed to horrify and alienate those around him when he decided to boil alive 70 male prisoners in cauldrons. For the next 10 years, not much is known about Temüjin. In 1197, he commanded part of an attack against the Tatars on behalf of the Chinese Jin dynasty. As a reward, the Jin restored him to a position of power. In his rule and his conquest of rival tribes, Temüjin broke with Mongol tradition in a few crucial ways. He delegated authority based on merit and loyalty rather than family ties. As an incentive for absolute obedience, Temüjin promised civilians and soldiers wealth from future war spoils. When he defeated rival tribes, he did not drive away their soldiers and abandon their civilians. Instead, he took the conquered tribe under his protection and integrated its members into his own tribe. He would even have his mother adopt orphans from the conquered tribe, bringing them into his personal family. These political innovations inspired great loyalty among the conquered people, making Temüjin stronger with each victory. His former friend, now turned rival Jamuka, once again attacked Temüjin, but this time was unable to defeat him. He sought refuge with another tribe and was elected Gur Khan, or universal ruler. He united the remaining tribes opposing Temüjin, but was ultimately defeated and captured. In fact, he was turned over by his own men in 1206. He was asked and granted a noble death, meaning without spilling blood, specifically by having one's back broken. From this moment on, Temüjin was the sole ruler of the Mongol plains, and all the prominent confederations fell or united under who was now called Genghis Khan. While it's impossible to know for sure how many people perished during the Mongol conquests, many historians put the number at somewhere around 40 million. Censuses from the Middle Ages show that the population of China plummeted by tens of millions during the Khan's lifetime, and scholars estimate that he may have killed a full 3/4 of modern-day Iran's population during his war with the Khwarezmid Empire. All told, the Mongols' attacks may have reduced the entire world's population by as much as 11%. Genghis Khan was known for the brutality of his campaigns and is considered by many to have been a genocidal ruler. However, he is also credited with bringing the Silk Road under one cohesive political environment. This brought relatively easy communication and trade between Northeast Asia, Muslim Southwest Asia, and Christian Europe, greatly expanding the cultural horizons of all three areas. Genghis Khan often gave other kingdoms a chance to peacefully submit to Mongol rule, but he didn't hesitate to bring down the sword on any society that resisted. One of his most famous campaigns of revenge came in 1219, when the Shah of the Khwarezmid Empire broke a treaty with the Mongols. Genghis had offered the Shah a valuable trade agreement to exchange goods along the Silk Road, but when his first emissaries were murdered, the enraged Khan responded by unleashing the full force of his Mongol hordes on the Khwarezmid territories in Persia. The subsequent war left millions dead and the Shah's empire in utter ruin, but the Khan didn't stop there. He followed up on his victory by returning east and waging war on the Tanguts of Shishya, a group of Mongol subjects who had refused his order to provide troops for his invasion of Khwarezm. After routing the Tangut forces and sacking their capital, the Great Khan ordered the execution of the entire Tangut royal family as punishment for their defiance. Beyond his military accomplishments, Genghis Khan also advanced the Mongol Empire in other ways. He decreed the adoption of the Uyghur script as the Mongol Empire's writing system. He also practiced meritocracy and encouraged religious tolerance in the Mongol Empire and unified the nomadic tribes of Northeast Asia. Unlike many empire builders, Genghis Khan embraced the diversity of his newly conquered territories. He passed laws declaring religious freedom for all and even granted tax exemptions to places of worship. This tolerance had a political side. The Khan knew that happy subjects were less likely to rebel, but the Mongols also had an exceptionally liberal attitude towards religion. While Genghis and many others subscribed to a shamanistic belief system that revered the spirits of the sky, winds and mountains, the steppe peoples were a diverse bunch that included Christians, Buddhists, Muslims and others. The great Khan also had a personal interest in spirituality and was known to pray in his tent for multiple days before important campaigns. Genghis Khan and the Mongols are invariably associated with terrible tales of conquest, destruction and bloodshed. This famed clan leader and his immediate successors created the largest empire ever to exist, spanning the entire Asian continent from the Pacific Ocean to modern-day Hungary in Europe. Such an empire could not have been shaped without visionary leadership, superior organizational skills, the swiftest and most resilient cavalry ever known, an army of superb archers, and of course, havoc and devastation. And yet, the legacy of Genghis Khan, his sons and grandsons, is also one of cultural development, artistic achievement, a courtly way of life, and an entire continent united under the so-called Pax Mongolica, or Mongolian peace. The political unification of Asia under the Mongols resulted in active trade and the transfer and resettlement of artists and craftsmen along the main routes. New influences were thus integrated with established local artistic traditions, giving birth to an extraordinary period of cultural development. But at the same time, many of these invasions carried with them large-scale slaughters of local populations, and as a result, Genghis Khan and his empire have a fearsome reputation in local histories. But no matter how you perceive him, there's no denying that Genghis Khan was one of the most influential leaders in humanity's history, and without him, the world would have probably looked rather different. Thank you for watching this episode of 7 Facts. I hope this was interesting and informative, and maybe it's even inspired you to look into it further on your own. If you like this video, please thumbs up and subscribe. While you're downstairs, let me know what you think about this video. Please consider visiting my Patreon page and become a patron. The link is in the description. I hope to see you next time. Bye.